the World in 80 Days, Chapter 37, in which it is shown that Phileas Fogg gained nothing by his tour around the world unless it were happiness. Yes, Phileas Fogg in person. The reader will remember that 5 minutes past 8 in the evening, about 5 and 20 hours after the arrival of the travellers in London, Passepartout had been sent by his master to engage the services of a Reverend Samuel Wilson in a certain marriage ceremony, which was to take place the next day. Passepartout went on his errand enchanted. He soon reached the clergyman's house, but found him not at home. Passepartout waited a good 20 minutes. When he left the revered gentleman, it was 35 minutes past 8. But in what state he was! With his hair in disorder and without his hat, he ran along the streets as never a man was seen to run before, overturning passers-by, rushing over the sidewalk like a waterspout. In 3 minutes he was in Savile Row and staggered back into Mr. Fogg's room. He could not speak. "What is the matter?" asked Mr. Fogg. "My master," gasped Passepartout. "Marriage impossible." "Impossible?" "Impossible for tomorrow." "Why so?" "Because tomorrow is Sunday." "Monday," replied Mr. Fogg. "No, today is Saturday." "Saturday. Impossible." Yes, cried Passepartout. "You have made a mistake of 1 day. We arrived 24 hours ahead of time, but there are only 10 minutes left." Passepartout had seized his master by the collar and was dragging him along with irresistible force. Phileas Fogg, thus kidnapped without having time to think, left his house, jumped into a cab, promised £100 to the cabman, and having run over 2 dogs and overturned 5 carriages, reached the Reform Club. The clock indicated 9:15 when he appeared in the great saloon. Phileas Fogg had accomplished his journey round the world in 80 days. Phileas Fogg had won his wager of £20,000. How was it that a man so exact and fastidious could have made an error of a day? How came he to think that he arrived in London on Saturday, the 21st day of December, when it was really Friday the 20th, the 79th day only from his departure? The cause of his error is very simple. Phileas Fogg had, without suspecting it, gained 1 day on his journey, and was thus merely because he had traveled constantly eastward. He would, on the contrary, have lost a day had he gone the opposite direction, that is, westward. In journeying eastward he had gone toward the sun, and as the days therefore diminished for him as many times 4 minutes as he crossed degrees in this direction. There are 360 degrees in the circumference of the earth, and these 360 degrees multiplied by 4 minutes gives precisely 24 hours. That is, the day unconsciously gained. In other words, while Phileas Fogg, going eastward, saw the sun pass the meridian 80 times, his friends in London only saw it pass the meridian 79 times. That is why they waited for him at the Reform Club on Saturday, and not Sunday, as Mr. Fogg thought. And Passepartout's famous family watch, which had always kept London time, would have betrayed this fact if it had marked the days as well as the hours and the minutes. Phileas Fogg then had won the £20,000, but as he had spent nearly 19,000 on the way, his pecuniary gain was small. His object was, however, to be victorious and not to win money. He divided the £1,000 that remained between Passepartout and the unfortunate Fix, against whom he cherished no grudge. He deducted, however, from Passepartout's share the cost of the gas, which had burned in his room for 1,920 hours, for the sake of regularity. That evening, Mr. Fogg, as tranquil and phlegmatic as ever, said to Oda, "Is our marriage still agreeable to you?" "Mr. Fogg," replied she, "it is for me to ask that question. You were ruined, but now you are rich again." "Pardon me, madam, my fortune belongs to you. If you had not suggested our marriage, my servant would not have gone to the Reverend Samuel Wilson's. I should not have been apprised of my error, and—" "Dear Mr. Fogg," said the young woman. "Dear Oda," replied Phileas Fogg. It need not be said that the marriage took place 48 hours after, and that Passepartout, glowing and dazzling, gave the bride away. Had he not saved her, and was he not entitled to this honor? The next day, as soon as it was light, Passepartout rapped vigorously at his master's door. Mr. Fogg opened it and said, "What's the matter, Passepartout?" "What day is it, sir? I've just this instant found out." "What?" "That we might have made the tour of the world in only 78 days. "No doubt," returned Mr. Fogg, "by not crossing India. But if I had not crossed India, I should not have saved Oda, and she would not have been my wife, and—" Mr. Fogg quietly shut the door. Phileas Fogg had won his wager and had made his journey around the world in 80 days. To do this, he had employed every means of conveyance: steamers, railways, carriages, yachts, trading vessels, sledges, and elephants. The eccentric gentleman had throughout displayed all his marvelous qualities of coolness and exactitude. But what then? What had he really gained by all of this trouble? What had he brought back from this long and weary journey? Nothing, you say. Perhaps so. Nothing but a charming woman who, strange as it may appear, made him the happiest of men. Truly, would you not for less than that make the tour around the world? This is the end of chapter 37, and this is the end of Around the World in 80 Days. I hope you enjoyed the book. I enjoyed reading it to you. So many interesting things happened in it. So many kind of things happened. But it's an adventure story, and it was a love story in the end. And Fogg would have been happy losing his bet, but having Iota by his side. And he won the bet, but the amount he won was essentially nothing. He ended up £1,000 ahead of what he spent on doing it. So he, in essence, didn't really end up with that much. But, it's kind of like when they talked about in the first chapter of him gambling over cards. He would gamble over cards, but what did he do with the winnings? He just gave it away to random people, gave it to charity, gave it to benefit others. So Fogg had the money, but wasn't really about the money, and that is a peculiar virtue that the Victorians cultivated. They tried to be, I have all of this money, but I don't need all of this money, which is really easy to say, I don't need the money if you have the money, but yeah, so it's kind of messed up. But Fogg was a good guy. He would have been happy with nothing. He probably is happier with the money, but let's not fool ourselves. He's probably happier with the money, but he's really happy that he had Iota. And Passepartout is happy that he didn't ruin his master's life, as he came really close to doing several times. But on the other hand, he saved the day a couple of times, so it's kind of a mixed bag. Hope you enjoyed this book, and we will see what the next one's going to be.